on this computer. And there's, you know, Yurit and I were going through trying to update the slide deck for this right before to pull it together. And I feel like it always turns out that there's actually quite a bit of stuff going on to share, even though sometimes when we first think about it, we're not aware of that. So let's see. There's the slideshow. Yay. Okay. Um, welcome, at least, everybody. And I hope that this isn't too bad a time for you. We're still experimenting with that. Sponsors list has not changed in forever, but thank you to both of them. You all have known the code of conduct, so I won't go over it again. I will, however, note that recently, Code for America, very nice of them for brigades, published a new um, comprehensive guide on working through conflict and code of conduct violation issues. It's on the public discourse documentation. And so that's helpful, just in case you ever want to know even more about how to deal with people who are misbehaving in a meeting. That could be helpful. So, oh, there's like a, I didn't, there's animation for no apparent reason. Since I think Sam was here last time, or maybe he wasn't, missed it. But Teresa, just so you know, you joined our leadership team last month and has been making waves. So that's been awesome to get help.
I do check out the Slack channels, and so I did know that, and I think that's great. Yay.
So here's our current lineup, and Katrina's not heavily involved, but she's still watching and occasionally pops in and offers input and helpful comments. And so there we are, and that's what we look like. All right, today, and I guess I'll post this in the Slack too, just to try and get it out there. It's always these last minute things. This happens a lot. For anybody interested in Twilio, which is how you send, it's one way to send text message notifications through a cloud-based service. One of the community fellows, there's like the fellowship program from Code for America, is giving a talk on how to use Twilio for civic tech purposes. And it should also be noted that Code for America has an in-kind, I don't know, offering from Twilio to make it possible for brigades to use Twilio service to send text message notifications at I don't know if it's like a discounted rate or what it is, but there's some deal to make it easier and better for people in the brigades to use this for projects. So that could be useful, could be interesting if you're interested in sending text messages. I don't think we need to worry about it specifically for any of our current projects. Maybe we do, but I mean, like CourtBot, for example, doesn't need this because we're not going to be in charge of sending the text messages. That's going to come from somebody else. Okay, so other things, where should Code for America focus priorities? So every year they're trying to do these priority action areas and determining what the brigade network of now over 90 brigades across the US should be trying to focus their energy on. And there's been voting, there's been already 2 phases of voting where we've narrowed things down. And these are the likely priorities that have bubbled to the top for the action areas. Just as I guess I can give a reference to what we currently have for the priority action areas. Rapid response. So when disaster strikes, like a pandemic, brigade members spring into action, creating pathways to record clearance, effectively expungement. Voting rights, this was certainly important leading up to the election and making sure everybody got their chance to get out. And court notifications, aka CourtBot, and making sure people know. So those were the priority actions for areas for 2020, and we're deciding on the 2021 areas now. These seem to be what's bubbling up. It's not decided quite yet, or it's not nailed down, but the voting is over. Now it's up to the National Advisory Council to finalize it. Okay, next Tuesday at 12:30 p.m., not 12 p.m. We are hosting a virtual talk with the head of Code for America's Get Your Refund program. And so this is a national scale program from Code for America that they are working with a volunteer tax filing group called VITA, I think, VITA, and helping them to reach as many people as possible that could basically qualify for but don't normally get the earned income tax rebate. Now, earned income tax, EIT. Anyway, I should know this, but I kind of get it confused. There's a rebate that people are qualified for and would probably find quite useful in terms of, like, getting, I think it's like $1,200 or $1,600 back on taxes. But often people don't get it because either they have earned under a certain amount and don't have to file taxes, and the only way to get it is to file your taxes, or it's too complicated for them to go through the process, and so they don't file taxes and they don't get their rebate. This is about trying to help people get that money because it's sitting there waiting for them to get it and they just don't know it. So this project is ongoing. There's a sign up here how to get involved at the bottom. Anybody can choose, but next week 12:30, the head of the program is going to be coming to Code for BTV hosted Zoom, where we will hear from him how people can volunteer to help their neighbors and other members of the community across Vermont even get their rebate. It, I guess, involves a little bit of specific training in the tax program, but nothing too particularly hard. And then you get matched up with people to help them. I don't think that there's any programming required. As far as I understand it, the technical stuff is not something that they need as much help with as they need people to talk with and work with people on the income tax filing. But come next week if you're interested at all and learn more, and that's when the guy can answer all the questions. His name is Billy Lim. You can find him on the Code for America Slack as well if you have questions.
And maybe if you have places you want to share this because it's a
Yes.
non-technical thing, then please do.
if you can, I think maybe what I need to do is, I do need to do this. I'll put a little blurb in our Slack that maybe people could share on Front Porch Forum if they're able to, and we can try and get the word out. I put it into the 7 days events. I'm trying to get it announced on at least Big Heavy World's radio station. I'm just trying to put it out a little bit so that people who are not technical at all know that this is a way that they could help their community and help people get the money that they deserve and have ready for them. So that's a great point, Yuri. Okay, so that's next week. Now, March 2nd through the 4th, the Vermont Technical Alliance is having a conference. I'm not entirely clear about the attendance, whether it costs money or not. If you work in the area in a tech job for a tech organization in the area, most of the tech organizations in the area are members of the Vermont Technical Alliance, so I'd imagine you can attend without an issue. But looking over their website and stuff, it's not clear if there's going to be any cost at all. So I would keep an eye on it. The topic areas: rural tech, innovation, skill development, accessibility, and social justice are all areas that we might find interesting. I know that the expungement program or expungement project has been submitted as a social justice and tech talk. I've submitted some discussions that are more professional in terms of my professional roles. So it's going to be possible that you'll see some people presenting there, but even if none of us get selected, we don't know yet who's been selected. I think the overall conference might be worth keeping an eye on. They're not paying me to promote this, but I do think that there's some value to it. And again, I don't know about the cost. I do know that after that, so that's March 2nd and through 4th, March 6th, which is, coming right up, is Open Data Day. And now, as with most things this year, I think most of the Open Data Day events will probably be virtual. If we go and look at it, Open Data Day, for those who have not paid attention to it in the past, is an international event day. Here's a map of where things we know are happening. I haven't really registered Burlington yet because I don't know what we're doing, if we're doing anything or not. I was hoping that Kirsten would be here to talk about this, but she's not available. So in general, we're trying to figure out what we want to do. We've got a few ideas, and they sort of are focused around the concept of trying to look at open data actions, projects that we could undertake that relate to the new American communities in Burlington. So trying to use maybe open data from the Burlington Open Data Portal, or look at what open data is not particularly available here that might be needed, and what are the needs of the new American populations here. So Kirsten and I have been reaching out to various contacts in the community regarding that, and we're trying to figure it out. But if you've got ideas or you just want to help out, please let me and Kirsten know. There's an Open Data Day channel in Slack as well, so you can follow along there if you're just curious what's going to happen. Last year, it was like, I don't know, 2 days before everything in the world shut down from the pandemic, I gave this training on how to use ArcGIS Online with the Open Data Portal, which was from Burlington, which was brand new.
I was on it. I remember we were looking at numbers of COVID, and we had no idea what's ahead of us. It's kind of funny to think about it now.
No, yeah, it was very surreal to think back to those moments right before it all happened. Yeah, so I think we had like 8-10 people, maybe, I don't remember exactly, who came in and we went through it, and it learned a little bit about some of the challenges of working with the Open Data Portal from Burlington in ArcGIS Online, learned some workarounds and some options. I think that was recorded even, probably, but I'd have to look back at that. So, I mean, that's something that I could easily do that again anytime. It's just, is that the best option? I don't know. Previous years before that, we had done these humanitarian response mapping trainings, which were really targeted at anyone and everyone. The software is web-based, web browser-based. So all you need is a computer with a web browser, not a tablet, but like a laptop or anything, low-end laptop even. They can get on the internet with a web browser, and you could participate in humanitarian response mapping efforts from your couch even. And we trained people how to do this. So in 2019, we did that in Burlington's Contois Auditorium, City Hall. Had a bunch of people. I think we got like 30 people for that. That was pretty cool. And we've been doing that a number of times over the years, and there was even one Open Data Day where we just arranged talks on open data. So those are some ideas. We haven't nailed it down. If you've got ideas or you want to participate, please let us know. Okay. I just found out about this like 30 minutes ago, and I'm very excited because I thought it was canceled this year. But Code for America is having a summit this year, which is their annual big public thing. In the past, what it would mean is that, and this was always the most exciting part of Summit probably, was that Code for America would pay to fly and lodge members of brigades, usually like the leadership team, to the summit in Oakland, California, and we would get to go there and hang out with all sorts of bigwigs in the civic tech arena and learn all sorts of stuff about it. Very exciting. Of course, this year it's virtual, but I expect that the talks and the presenters are going to be still pretty great to listen to and hear their impressions of how to deal with. I think the focus this year, not surprisingly, is along the lines of the new administration. Like, how can we, build back better effectively, designing an equitable government. Yeah, if you read through this, it's a lot about we're ready to turn toward rebuilding our country, designing a stronger government, a lot of this stuff. So it's, I suppose, semi-political in that sense, but nevertheless, it's going to be really valuable to attend. I imagine since it's virtual, it will also be free as it was last year. Because that was the other thing that happened, right after I gave that ArcGIS Online thing for Open Data Day, I was supposed to like fly to DC the next week because it was the first year that they were ever going to do the summit in DC. We were going to have talks with members of Congress and that kind of thing. That all got canceled, of course, but it was became virtual and free. So we'll see what happens. National Advisory Council elections are still, it's an ongoing process. They have not gotten quite enough candidates signed up to have the election yet, so they're extending that process, which I'm not surprised. It's hard to get people to volunteer to work on a project right now, much less on the National Advisory Council. So that all said, we believe we have one local individual who's going to be running for the National Advisory Council, and once the voting is open and starts, we will be presenting at least the information about that. Of course, if you also are interested in participating in the National Advisory Council, you can still submit your application. There's a link. And you are encouraged to do that, even if we already have somebody running. Just why not? Why not have more people run? It's okay. There's information here about what the National Advisory Council does. I think I've covered this before, but they're effectively like the elected delegation that rises from the ranks of all the regular brigades in the brigade network to represent us as sort of an in-between layer between the brigade network and the national headquarters of Code for America, represent our interests to them, and also to support the brigades on a sort of organizing across the brigades scale. So they're pretty important, pretty valuable, and they keep getting better every year as they redefine parts of their mission. As I alluded to, we are on the new meeting schedule, so every other Tuesday still is what we're doing, which means most months is 2 times, although I think occasionally it means 3 times in a month. First meeting is a lunch catch-up, is what we're doing right now. And then the second meeting is the action night. We get together and actually work online, virtually, for how much time we can commit to that. We're using Zoom with breakout rooms, Slack. We did this for the first time 2 weeks ago, and I think it went pretty well for getting back into it. We worked on our website, and we worked on the safety net support projects, human services, data, API implementation coding. So it's a good opportunity to get together and do some actual work, to set aside some time to do work if you're having trouble doing that. All right, so that's the news and updates. I can get into Expunge BT real quick. Micah was giving us a little bit of a lowdown because he's been working on as kind of the tech person for this recently. And I won't go into everything, but effectively, there's 2 pieces of information. First, they feel that they're effectively done, that they've got a working thing that works for all the needs that they currently know about, and maybe there may be bug fixes, but it's effectively they've finished what they need to finish, which is great. more great was, since I don't think this news was shared for the last meeting that we had for lunch, Vermont Legal Aid contacted us. They are the client. They are the original client for whom we built Expunge VT. And our contact, Mairead at Vermont Legal Aid, had shared some metrics that had bubbled up in a Senate-related thing or a legislature-related thing. I don't know exactly what the topic was, but they were being used as metrics to support further expungement efforts in the state. And the metrics showed that in 2018, when the cannabis laws changed, there were 2,000 expungements that were processed, or 2,000 petitions for expungement that were processed. A petition is a particular case, I guess on your criminal record, you might have multiple files where you've had done different things, and you might petition each of those to be expunged depending on what they are. So one person may have multiple petitions for expungement. Anyway, in 2018 there were 2,000. In 2019, I don't actually remember the number. I think it was 5,000 or 7,000, something like that. And in 2020 there were, I believe, 14,000 expungements. And Mairead just clearly stated that she feels that that over 6 times increase in expungement is directly related to this project. That without this project, that would not have occurred, and the impact would not have been there. It's currently impossible for them to consider running an expungement clinic without this software, because it increases the efficiency of the clinic so much that to go back to the old way of doing things would make it not cost effective to run the clinics. So it's a pretty huge kudos, and of course Code for America, when they found out, were thrilled as well to have such clear numbers associated with the success of a project. So good news, expungement, but there's not a whole lot more anybody needs to do on it at the moment. So it's good to know. CourtBot, Sam, do you want to update the world about where things are at with CourtBot?
It's sorry, I was temporarily unmuted. Now I'm actually unmuted. Kind of an exciting moment for CourtBot. And Teresa, I'll kind of read, and Nick, you're very familiar with the project, but I am going to borrow a slide from a collaborators in Tulsa, because am I allowed to? Can you enable screen sharing?
Yeah, you should do. Yeah, now you can.
Cool. Basically, this is a slide from our collaborators. The background for this project is people sometimes have court dates, either civil cases, like in eviction cases, or criminal cases, where they have orders to appear in court for various things, and they don't always get informed that they have these important dates, and the consequences of missing them can be really serious. And as Nick was showing before, this was a national priority of Code for America. So we, like many other wanted to create some kind of text message notification where people could say, hey, this is my case number. When do I have a court hearing coming up? And this, what's really cool about our project is we're participating with Code for Tulsa, Oklahoma. And so this is a model of their whole system. The Twilio part is the text message. The Python part and GitHub part is doing the web scraping and analysis to get the data on what people's court cases are. And so this left part is what we are doing, and then we send to Pulse's system, and then people are able to use their interface to use the system. And their case is actually, I hadn't realized this until this meeting last week, but their case is actually live right now. Like you can test it with there it is. If you had a court case in Oklahoma, you could like text that number and this would work. And what we have done, the interesting part to store, a challenge of this is every state, in some cases, every city or every other jurisdiction has its own funky IT way of doing cases. So that's why we have our own Python code that does the web query. And Nick actually came up with a really clever idea. Oklahoma, they just, every time someone looks for something, they basically, if I remember correctly, they just like check the public database each time. But for us, we like compiled this table each time, and that'd be really slow. So we're using GitHub as kind of a database. We're storing event information for each court hearing as JSON files in just as a file on GitHub, and seems to be working so far. But we're still in the process. Our main goal, I don't know if Nick, do we have a February meeting? Like another one of those work sessions this week, or does February not have enough Tuesdays?
We do have a February meeting on the 23rd. Right.
Okay.
Thank you, Reed.
So I think our big goal, if there have been more people here, I wanted to be able to point people in the direction of how they can help. And at this point, we have the working Python package and way of storing all the court information for Vermont, and Oklahoma has the Twilio chat notification system up and working. We're still fine tuning, helping those two talk to each other correctly. And also just some of the details of how Lucas, who is a really great member of the team and is able to make these lunch meetings, but has done most of the work. He has a few issues that he's flagged on GitHub. So if you're not part of the GitHub, the Code for BTV group on GitHub, you can check out both. There's both one called CourtBot, and then there's one called Court Calendars. Those are separate repositories. They have some issues, but as we get into getting ready for that work session at the end of February, hopefully we can tackle some of those issues, and maybe even start getting ready to do some outreach effort, so that when this thing can launch for Vermont, we'll be ready to tell people that.
Do you think that you need more help with Python, or with, I don't know if there's problems with the GitHub data storage solution, or do you have a sense of where you think the issues are? I haven't gone over it.
Yeah, I'd say like I'd start with the CourtBot repo and like read the README, clone the repo, and just like test it and like see what issues you can come up with. Would be a good starting point, I think.
Great.
My background was not like, my background in this is like kind of the Civic part and less on the tech part. I know like a little bit of Python, but so I did some of the web scraping code, but like figuring out the architecture of connecting this to they call it Alexbot. It's like an Amazon Alexa system. The understanding what that needs, like some of that is above my head. So I'm not sure if you read the issues flagged on GitHub. It might make sense to you or other members.
So perhaps some knowledge of how to help with the Amazon services as well.
I mean, I think all of that is like a box that we don't need to touch. But there's like, I guess another repo to check out is Code for Tulsa. I'll share it in there's like a bunch of confusing repos on their page, but I'll share in Slack the one that I think it's called Court Libraries, and the idea is that each state, and we're the first one, yay. Each state will have, although Delaware is coming on, will have like a folder that has the specific things that help connect it to the state specific things. There's
Cool.
a lot of, like, once you get,
Whoa, hello.
like a lot of projects, like the basic web scraping, and I think even the web notification thing or the text notification is relatively simple, but there's a lot of intricacies of like time zones and like whether court numbers are unique and multiple things scheduled in multiple days and how often things are updated. So there are a lot of issues that I'm sure we'll keep finding and knocking down, hopefully.
Well, we'll put a call out and see if we can get some help for the 23rd then.
And we'll try to have some like really concrete things for people.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, yeah, thank you. I'm excited that this that we are effectively lined up to be the next, at this point, with the progress that your team is making, we're lined up to be the next CourtBot effectively. I think, I mean, it's not a race. I think we might beat Delaware to that situation. But even if we don't beat them, then we're effectively part of the next CourtBot crew, which is exciting, and the sort of the new era of CourtBot where it's more of this, like you said, building state-specific modules. It's a pretty neat paradigm. So that's awesome. I guess I'll go back to sharing that. So CourtBot, thank you for that, Sam. And now it's Irit's turn.
So safety net VT, I guess yeah, I don't know. I guess this is the name. So where are we at? We are, Nick put together the basis for creating the API that will talk to the database that's going to represent the HSDS format that it's I actually, Teresa, you probably have no idea what I'm talking about. I assume, or are you familiar with this high level project? Oh, you're muted.
I'm vaguely familiar with it when it first started. I think Nick and I talked a little bit, and I sent a couple of links for the Northeast Kingdom because it seems like there's a web page in the Northeast Kingdom to help people find what they need, be it food or masks or
Okay.
I haven't checked out that site to know if they expanded it to vaccines and locations and all of that stuff, but I think I understand the goal.
So yeah, so we kind of it transformed a little bit. So we started from as a result of the pandemic, but it kind of became more of a access to resources that for social safety net, which the pandemic just showed how much this is important. And we kind of concluded that another website is probably not really going to address the problem. So we were looking at different ways of how to improve this issue, improve the solutions for this issue. And we came across an initiative called Open Referral that actually works on standardizing service directory information, because one of the issues is that the information is kind of all over the place and not always updated. And then the second thing is, how do you access it? Who has access to it? So at the moment, we're focused more on the HSDS aspect, looking at ways where data can be shared more easily between agencies. And we're talking to United Way, who are responsible to 211, and to see if there is a way to work with them on this. And then we actually just recently spoke to Tom from Code for UV. They're working on with a specific organization on an app that can help inform about smaller food shelves that are slightly less organized, which means they have more changes to their hours and to what they have available. And they're trying to help those who are looking for these resources to have the most current information and be able to find that information easily, and sometimes have it offline as well, so that they don't have to drive around and look for what they need. We're gonna try to work with them to have the backend be the standardized the HSDS as a sort of a, I guess I can call it an MVP or a something like that. Yeah, so that's like some of it is exploration to see how this problem, the can of worm as we call it, can be addressed more better. And then so within Code for BTV, the main focus is right now as a part. So the one aspect is, reaching out to some potential partners and speaking to them about their needs and what makes sense. And then the other aspect is pushing forward the implementation of HSDS in a way that we can then somehow, unclear yet exactly, create something that probably will have different organizations maybe share information among themselves more easily. So that's a Node, Node.js with Postgres and hosted on Heroku. Yeah, and I think Nick, you created a lot of issues already, right? There's a lot of small things that can actually. Is that a yes laugh or a no laugh, or you're muted, so I don't know. You're still muted.
Let's just call it a yes laugh.
Yeah, it seemed like he's talking, so I wasn't sure.
Sorry, okay,
Oh.
I couldn't find the button because it's kind of hidden.
Okay.
It's the same color as the tab bar in my browser. Okay. Yes, I just think it's funny that you said I cause a lot of issues or something.
Oh, created. No, I'm sorry.
Created a lot of issues. Sorry, it still sounds funny.
Yeah, still causing all these issues. Yes.
There's a lot of issues. I've tried to identify a bunch of issues that for this that are good first issues in a sense. I mean, if you know absolutely nothing about doing development, they may be still a bit of a hurdle. But if you have ever touched JavaScript and or Node.js before, then they should get you pointed in the right direction for how we're going to be implementing this API to enable data updates to the database.
It is. I think the Swagger piece is also another, if you've never used it, like just getting familiar with how it works. But
Swagger is a technical tool, not a stance, I guess. And well, I mean, who knows? I mean, it's like some of the names of these things are ridiculous. Yeah.
But I think that's the probably the main things right now. as far as I can think.
Yeah, exactly. It's great. Certainly looking forward to working with Code for UV. If they can sort of be our proxy first client in terms of experimenting with how other groups might contribute to or use the data that we're trying to make accessible. Yeah, so right now the technical needs are around Postgres and around Node.js development. And the non-technical needs are around communications with partners.
I guess
Yeah.
that reminded me that something that I was talking to Kirsten a little bit, and we should probably look into continuing that is we were doing some interviews and kind of learning about the needs. That's part of what led us to go in this direction. So also we will continue doing some user research and interviews as we progress. Also, once, especially when we have something to show, that will be like another aspect of interest, I guess we can call it.
Yes, exactly.
So it's still there. It's still a component. I think is just kind of on the side right now, but it's still planned.
Keep it human-centered and informed by the needs of those who would be using it. Cool. All right. So for those who are really nerdy and want something to work on technically, you can talk to me about some implementations of HSDS extract, transform, load coding for an ArcGIS/Esri open source project called Coop. And open referral guy Greg Bloom has been trying to work with Esri, the ArcGIS people, on building this. I had a meeting with him and Esri to talk about it, and there's some work to do. I don't think that I can get into it until I get through some of the other HSDA, HSDS work that we're doing for open referral implementation here. But by the time I get through that for the safety net VT project, I should have a pretty good idea of what to do here as well for this. But if anybody wants to jump into it, I'll be happy to talk to them about it at some point.
Just a quick question. Oh, go ahead, Sam.
I have a quick question too on the previous slide. Nick, this is like, I know some of these technical words. Again, I'm familiar with Esri's stuff. Like, what is the purpose of this project, this subproject?
So an ETL tool, Coop is it's a service. It's basically a Node.js based service that operates for modularly connecting various input data sources to various output data needs. And its special superpower is that it can expose, it has modules already created by Esri to expose data that goes into it as an ArcGIS online service. So you don't have to, or like an ArcGIS data service. So you don't need to necessarily have all of the ArcGIS software in order to expose your data to the ArcGIS Online platform. However, that's not all it does. And like I said, it's modular. So Open Referral would like to see a module created, at least one module created that would allow the Coop tool to ingest or import data into it that it follows the HSDS format. And if we also had a module that then allowed the Coop service to take in some random data and expose it as the HSDS format to do this extraction of data, transforming it, loading it, that would be also very nice. So it's this idea of basically building a data adapter that can read and potentially write, or I don't know, take input and potentially create output in the HSDS standard data specification for human services data that's out there. Is that
So we're
help?
making a tool that in the future will be useful for the types of projects we do.
It would be useful for anybody that wants to take HSDS data and put it into the ArcGIS Online platform, at least, and maybe the other way around as well. Take ArcGIS Online data and put it into HSDS. Yeah.
Cool, thank you.
What do you know what coding languages or other?
It's pretty much all JavaScript. It's it's very similar to building the HSDA that we're trying to implement now, but different. It's similar but different. I think,
Unfortunately.
I think that if we write all this code for the HSDA, I haven't really thought about that before this moment, but a lot of that will probably be pretty portable to implementing this as well.
That's
So
cool.
that's good to know.
So I guess
Anyway.
I'll just add. Oh, sorry, Nick.
I don't have anything else.
Oh, so we, in the context of the whole adapter thing, so we talked to someone from United Way that's using their system that supports AIRS, which is the standard for the taxonomy. Am I saying this right, Nick? I'm still like, there's some it's complicated.
It is complicated.
But
AIRS is the group that says what the taxonomy you will use is if you want to be a 211 organization.
So, and then when they receive updates from any other organization, it has to be translated into those standards, or it can't go in the system. And it's really important that the updated data will be in 211 system. So someone goes and looks at all this information and manually updates it. And so this is why this thing is like, that's why people are trying to really figure this out, because it can make data more accurate and more available more easily if everyone just spoke in the same language, really. So
if we had a universal translator for everything.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the attempt that you're doing here to translate, I guess.
It's one of the
one language.
translation
Yeah.
options. Exactly.
Yeah.
I know time's getting tight, but do you want to give a quick rundown of the website thing that's going on?
Yeah, so it was recently ported to WordPress. We lost some of the information, but not all of it. And now the plan is to keep it on WordPress. We are working on figuring out what theme to use. And after that, we're going to slowly, we have a layout of like the high level menu. And the idea is to have a first phase where we add the most basic things to the website so that it has, the basic information. And then from there, we're going to go next probably to have some form of blog or news or something like that. And yeah, anyone who wants to help is welcome. There is a Slack channel.
It's basically WordPress development.
Yeah, I guess.
Maybe. There's a lot of Slack channels.
C4 BTV website is the channel we're using. Yeah, I have to go and back and I have nothing.
Okay.
We worked. We were in a better shape. We spoke to Ed Harris, and he gave us some pointers and some guidance. And the next step is really to switch to the new theme, and then we can start adding stuff to it.
Awesome. That's it. Okay, cool. Anybody else have anything else you just want to bring up or share?
I had a couple of really basic questions. I don't know if I could just get this on Slack, but one is the CourtBot application. What do people have to do now without that application? I mean, do they have to like keep calling the court and finding out when their appointment is, or what is the problem it's solving? I just didn't get that.
Yeah, I can speak to that. They can't, I guess the biggest issue with court calendars is they're always like being updated and changed. So there's no, the state of Vermont doesn't have any equivalent service like this. So you'd really, like, if you didn't get it, like if you don't have an attorney who told you what your date is, or you'd have to just like go onto the state of Vermont judiciary website and I think then know what county and court you have, which I think you're gonna have to know that information to use our app anyway. You're gonna have to basically you're gonna have to periodically check a PDF with all these names and dates and see if you are on it or not.
Oh, and
it's
so if you're not computer savvy, you basically could miss your date, not knowing it was rescheduled or something like that.
right. And I mean, even I'm decently tech savvy, but this is just a problem in how they're set up. I used to be a newspaper reporter in a different state, and this is really like I was trying to follow high profile cases, and I wanted a system like this because every morning I'd drink my coffee and spend 15 minutes just reading this PDF and like hoping I didn't miss an important name. So I think this could be like why I think like lawyers and reporters will widely use this.
Yeah, I think it's important to in terms of the civic impact, Teresa, is that if you the system is not particularly user friendly. Let's start there. There's a way to get the information, but it's not particularly easy. And depending on your level of tech savviness, your level of access to technology, finding the information out may not be super great to go through. If you miss your court date, really bad things can happen. And so we're trying to, like figure out a way to help people not miss the court dates. If you miss a criminal court date, you go to jail. It doesn't matter what exactly the charge was. If you were criminally speeding on the interstate, which is technically, I think, anything over 80 miles per hour, you go to jail if you miss the court date. It's not just like if you murdered someone and you missed the court date. Like it kind of anything that falls into criminal offense. Now, obviously that's bad, but if it's a civil court date, and here's a common scenario, someone is trying to fight being evicted by their landlord. If they miss the court date, their landlord gets an automatic out and can kick them out no matter what. So again, it can have a huge impact on people's lives for something that shouldn't be that hard to keep track of, but actually isn't always easy to keep track of.
Okay, great. Thanks. And I had one more question. I know it's 1 o'clock though, so I can.
Go ahead, shoot.
It had to do with the safety net VT. You're making an API. Is that like an API that's going to be used on various websites, or an API that's going to be used on a mobile app, or both? Or I'm just wondering what the final product is envisioned as.
Go ahead, you're right.
Nick, you can respond to that, I think.
Okay, we don't know actually. Okay, so the API is feeding data, or it's a data interface. It allows people to use a standard documented way to interact with the human services data in the database, to create contacts, to update organizations, to set services and hours, that kind of thing. The interface to it that we would put on top of the API, because there's the API, then there's always some kind of user interface on top of the API. The typical approach is to build a website. We probably will have some kind of basic website, but I'm not sure that that's the end game. I think that may be sort of a stepping stone interface wise to make it visible, possible easier for us to demonstrate that the data is there and how to navigate it. but I think we're still trying to figure out what the actual end game is, the best possible end game for how to integrate the data into the state, I guess, as a general entity, not just the government, but into the state as a whole, the community of the state, so that the information of human services that are available through 211, through the various, I don't know, councils on aging, and even through maybe arts networks where they're trying to support artists. I mean, it kind of covers every facet of what a safety net would be. How do we keep all that information in the same language, shared appropriately amongst all the people that need it, and making it accessible, especially to the Vermonters that need that information the most. So people that don't have great internet connections, don't have great technical skills, is the website the best option for doing that? Is it better to try and feed information into 211? It seems like that might be challenging. Is it better to provide something that 211 can reference from phone calls that they get? They're like, oh, you want to know about this? Why don't you reference this website or this other phone number that you can call, maybe another text message system? I don't know that we have a solution. Yuri, am I
Yeah.
correct in all this?
Yeah, I'll just add, so what we saw, we think there are maybe two main issues that we saw that kind of are causing the people that really need the information to not get it or not get it easily. One is the standardization of it, which makes like everything kind of all over the place and not reliable, and you don't know where to get it. And the other thing is, due to that, when you want to make this information available to in other ways than a website, if it's like a call center, which 211 actually, I mean, it does pretty well. It's not like that does exist, but there are other ways, and there's other information that doesn't make it to 211. If you have the information in a predictable way, like what to predict, how to find it, and how to retrieve it from technology or vice versa. So like either via text message, or like the idea is that if that information is clearly defined, you can more easily then create tools that will make it available in different ways. I hope it's a little hard to explain. That's kind of so there are different aspects of this. And after a bunch of conversations, we realized that dealing with the standardization might be the first step, versus, for example, trying to work on tools that will make the information accessible to the end user, which is the individual that's looking for the information. Because there's also the organizations that are serving these individuals, but even they don't have all that they need.
Mhm.
So
Thank you. That
we
makes sense.
said it's a can of worms, and it really is.
I think I have the general concept now, at least.
Okay,
Thank
hopefully.
you. Yes, thanks.
Great. Well, I don't have anything else. We're past time, and I really appreciate everybody coming out. I'll put the recording up on the Slack, at least, maybe elsewhere, and we can share it. But thanks for everybody's participation and help, and we will hopefully see folks on the 23rd, or maybe we'll be talking to you before then even. So
Bye, everybody.
take care,
Bye.
be
Nice
well,
to
and
meet you, Sam, and Irid.
yeah, yep, and we'll see y'all later.
Okay,
Bye.
take
Bye.
care. Bye-bye.